Hi, fourth grade, and welcome to today's packet help for reading for day 6 in virtual learning packet number 4. So that's from Monday, May 4th, and May the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day to any Star Wars fans. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a copy, a digital copy of the virtual packet that I post on Google Classroom and that most of your teachers post as well. Mine might look a little different because I've always got to add just a little bit more color. I don't know why. But if it looks different than yours, it's okay because all the work's going to be the same. So we're just going to go through day number 6. So if you're in my class here, it says your names. You're going to replace your name with, of course, your actual name. So don't forget to do that if you're in my classroom. That helps me keep track as I look at the slideshows. The first slide is just a reminder about the virtual learning packet. It's got a letter from the district that explains to you what we need, that they want you to complete every single task listed and make sure to keep track of your progress by using the little check boxes. At the end of the week, you're supposed to choose 2 examples of each. So 2 examples of reading, 2 examples of writing, 2 examples of math, and 2 examples of content, which is science or social studies. So don't forget to do that. If you're doing this virtually and you're doing a slideshow for your teacher, whether it's myself, Miss Dulesky, Miss Nichols, or Miss Dart, make sure that you highlight the selection you want us to take a look at. So if you wanted us to look at day 6, what you would do is you'd come over here, you'd use your cursor to highlight day 6, then you go to this highlight tool here, choose color, any color, and you would highlight day 6 reading for May 4th. The reading learning opportunities today, we'll read Lincoln's Choice on the next few slides, and we're going to answer the questions that follow. So you're going to answer the questions on your own, but I am going to read the story out loud and just give you a few tips for answering those questions on your own. So let's start with Lincoln's Choice. This is a story that someone told about Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln saved my life. We had been going to school together one year. The next year we had no school because there were so few students to attend, there being only about 20 in the school the year before. Consequently, Abe and I had not much to do, but as we did not go to school and our mothers were strict with us, we did not get to see each other very often. They knew there were dangers in the countryside. One Sunday morning, my mother waked me up early, saying she was going to see Mrs. Lincoln and that I could go along. Glad of the chance, I was soon dressed and ready to go. After my mother and I got there, Abe and I played all through the day. We were out in the hills near the river. While we were wandering up and down the little stream called Knob Creek, Abe said, "Right up there," pointing to the east, "we saw a lot of blueberries there yesterday. Let's go over. We can bring a lot home." The stream was too wide for us to jump across. We saw a foot log and decided to try it. It was narrow, but Abe said, "Let's do it." He was like that. He would take a chance if it was important to do something. He went first and reached the other side all right. I went about halfway across when I slipped. He shouted, "Don't look down nor up nor sideways, but look right at me and hold on tight." But I fell off into the creek, and the water was about 7 or 8 feet deep. I could not swim, and neither could Abe. I was splashing and calling out. So he got a stick and climbed out and held it out to me. I came up, grabbing with both hands, and he put the stick into my hands. I clung to it, and he pulled me out onto the bank, almost dead. He got me by the arms and shook me well. Then he rolled me on the ground, and the water poured out of my mouth. It was all right very soon. We promised each other that we would never tell anybody about it, and never did for years. My mother would have been so angry. I never told anyone, but I can tell you now. He's a great problem solver, even when he was a boy. What is the lesson you can learn from the story is question number 1. So when we think about a lesson you can learn from the story, another name for a lesson is a vocab word. Is something that we talked about a lot in 4th grade, and that word is theme. So we can reword this to what is the story's theme? Now, when we talked about theme, we talked a lot about one-word themes, but in this case, we're going to make our theme a one-sentence lesson. It's like the moral of a story. If you ever hear somebody say, "and the moral of the story is," or if you've ever read Aesop's Fables, you will see that there's a moral. So when we're looking for the theme, we're looking for the main the main message. We're also looking for what can we take from this story that we can apply to our lives. And down here, it's going to ask you to use your highlighter tool to highlight the parts of the story that shows the lesson learned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight a few parts of the story that might give you a clue to the messages, to the theme or the message in the story. So as we go through, I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go where we have a little bit of lessons. And I want us to do, the stream was too wide for us to jump across. We saw a foot long and decided to try it. It was narrow, but Abe said, let's do it. He was like that. He would take a chance if it was important to do something. I think the fact that Abe would take a chance if it was important to do something is something that's very, very important to us when we're determining the theme or the message of the story. He went first and reached the other side all right. And when I went about halfway across when I slipped. He shouted, don't look down nor up nor sideways, but look right at me and hold on tight. But I fell off into the creek and the water was about 7 or 8 feet deep. I could not swim and neither could Abe. I think it's very important, considering Abe's next actions, that we take into account the fact that he couldn't swim and neither could his friend who fell down into the creek. So he got a stick and climbed out and held it out to me. I came up grabbing with both hands and he put the stick into my hands. I clung to it and he pulled me out on the bank almost dead. He got me by the arms and shook me well. Then he rolled me on the ground and the water poured out of my mouth. I'm going to highlight this because I think this is going to be, this entire paragraph is very, very important to determining our message. Oh, I was all right very soon. Sorry, we're going to make sure that's a little lighter so you can see it. I was all right very soon. We promised each other that we would never tell anybody about it and never did for years. My mother would have been so angry. I never told anyone. But I can tell you now, he was a great problem solver even when he was a boy. I'm going to highlight that. I think together, all of this highlighted information, if we look at it, we take a minute to really look at it closely and we think about the message of the story, the main theme, and we think about something that we can take away from it that we can apply to our lives. This is what I want you to write your sentence about. You can even start, I'm going to start a sentence stem, a lesson I learned from this story was, and we even have our sentence stem here. All you have to do is complete that sentence and you are done with your reading work for today. And now that we're done with our reading work, we know that in addition to reading every day, we also have vocabulary. So I'm going to go down. Make sure to pause if you need to write anything down at any point. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take 1 second look at the highlights there. If you need to look at the highlights again, pause here. All right, and on the next slide, if you need to look at the highlights or you need to look at what I typed in the box, you don't have to type all of this. This is just for us to think. But here's the sentence stem, and I'm going to highlight it. This is what you are going to write. If you need a minute to do that, then I want you to pause the video here. All right, now we're going to move on to vocabulary for day 6. So this week we are focusing on prefix, suffix, and root or base words. A prefix is a word part that is added to the beginning of a word and changes the meaning. A suffix is a word part that is added to the end of a word and changes the meaning of the word. And now we're going to complete the prefix, suffix, root activity on the following slide. And before I do that, I'm going to see if I can come over here. And I want us to highlight the important parts of that. So, oops, sorry about that. My computer sometimes does that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get out. I want us to make sure that we remember that a prefix is a word part that is added to the beginning of a word. Don't forget that both prefixes and suffixes change the meaning, which we should remember from class. And a suffix is a word part that is added to the end of a word. If you need a second to review those definitions, I want you to pause the video now. Right, and then we're going to go on to the activity. So here, prefix, suffix, and root word practice. We're going to circle the root in each word. I'm going to do the first one with you. I'm also going to do the first one of the next activity with you, and you're going to do the rest on your own. So it says circle the root in each word. Now, if you are doing this on Google Classroom, then you can circle it by inserting a shape. You see here we have circles. We can insert that and we can circle it, but it might be easier if we just highlight. I can show you both. So I'm going to get out my circle tool and I'm going to look at international. So here I have international. Now, not all of these words are going to have prefix, suffix, and root words, but a few of them will have all three. Now, international is an example of one that has all three. If you think you know what it is, I want you to think for a minute. I'm going to give you a second of thinking time. Pause the video here and see if you can figure out what the prefix is. Okay. The prefix is inter. Inter means between. Now, it's really important that when we talk about prefixes, suffixes, and roots, that we know the meaning of our prefix and suffix as well as our root word. So inter means between. So I see a prefix here. Now, do we see a suffix? We do, and that suffix is al. Al. So what does that make our root word? It makes our root word nation. So our root word is nation. Now, see, if I did that, I have to go all the way up here and do transparent. So I'm going to tell you now that I think, while you could do that, I'm going to go and make it easier, and I'm just going to highlight this. So there, I have the word nation. That is my root word. Now, I want you to do this for each of these, and I want you to think about prefixes and suffixes that we talked about in class, and think about taking those out of the word and hiding them. So if I'd hid inter, then I would have known that that wasn't part of the root. If I'd hid al, I would know that that's not part. But now we're going to go down to the next activity. And on the next activity, we have to break down each word. So the first word we have is reheated, and we have to break that down into prefix, a root, and a suffix. So right away, if I remember my prefixes, I see a very commonly used prefix that we talked a lot about in 4th grade, and that prefix is, that's right, it's re, re. I want you to think for a second about what re means. All right, and if you said that re means again, very good job. I'm super proud of you. So that makes the root word, now this is tricky because some of us might want to say one thing and we take it too far when we do. So some of us might want to say, oh, heated's the root word, but it's not. In this case, both of these words have a prefix, a root, and a suffix. We have to remember that the suffix in this word is ed. Now, I want you to think about a minute about what ed means. That's another suffix we talked a lot about. Right? And ed means in the past. If you said that, very good. Give yourself a pat on the back. Of course, that just leaves our root, and our root is heat. So what does reheated mean? I want you to leave that in the comments below or send it to your teacher if you think you know what the definition is. And that's all we have to do for our prefix, suffix, and root practice today. So if you need any help, as always, make sure you get in touch with your teacher. We'll talk to you again more tomorrow. I hope you guys will join us for our Zoom help sessions. They are every day from 11 to 12, every weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 11 to 12. And you will do work with your teachers and with other 4th grade teachers during that time. And everybody leaves with some of their work done. So please come check it out. Make sure your teachers have sent the Zoom link through Google Classroom as well as Class Dojo. So I hope you'll come and join us. Now remember, 4th grade, we are definitely better together. I'll see you soon. Miss you guys. Bye.